Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of the Ben and Melanie Show. I'm your host, Ben, and I'm here with the other host, Melanie. Hi there, Melanie.
Hey there.
Sometimes I introduce ourselves wrongly as guests. I don't know why I do that. I'm just like, in my brain, I'm interviewing myself as a guest. I don't know. It just happens. Anyway, today we're not in the normal location. We're not in the salon. We're actually out in the Sugar Shack, boiling maple sap down here. It's sort of a family tradition in my family. Nothing to do with any of the traditional things that Melanie does, but this is just like a family tradition that they started about 30 years ago. Around the time they bought the property, they found that there's a bunch of maple trees here, and they started tapping them. So this is my mom and dad's property. But really, my dad and my uncle really are the ones who started doing this. But they knew that the people before them had a big pot out here connected to a chain, and they actually used to do the same thing. So we're just basically way out in the woods here. They built like a little shack out here to keep you out of the wind, and it's actually pretty nice. So if you hear a little bubbling sugar water in the background, that's what that is today. Yeah.
Yes. So if you're not from the Midwest, we tap sugar maple trees, and that tapping means you drill a little hole in it, you put a little spout inside of the tree, and then you hook a bucket on, and there's more advanced ways nowadays to do it, but you can hook a bucket on, and then as the temperature's warm, the sap rises up into the tree, and it comes out, and we get to collect it in buckets, and then you have to boil it to get it down, turn into maple syrup that you have on your pancakes. So it's pretty cool to live here.
Yeah.
And have that ability to do that.
It really is this time of year. It's pretty relaxing, actually. You cannot be impatient if you're out here. You just have to go with the flow, and you got to wait for it. Wait for my sugar. Let me sugar water, I should say. No, and actually I'm recording on my phone right now we use the Anchor to host our podcast, essentially. And that's great. It's free and everything like that. I never use it to record the podcast. I've always used just microphones and GarageBand and Apple computers to record everything and to edit everything. So this is the first time I've ever just used a Anchor third-party app thing to just try to record it. So we'll see how this turns out. Hopefully the audio is viable.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can hear us. Just for anybody interested in the technical details of how to do this, I'm just learning how to do it myself all the time. So maybe it'll sound better. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. But we've had many good drunken discussions out here over the years. That's well, I wouldn't say like
it's like Jerk Camp.
More like, I wouldn't say me and you necessarily. More like me and my dad probably out here. But yeah. And speaking of that, I should say I should. There's always like a little thing of hot damn out here. It's very old hot damn. But I'm gonna open it and take just a little sip. Mm-hmm. It kind of goes with the
tradition of boiling the sap.
Yeah. Here, you want to try a little bit?
No. Not at all.
Okay.
No.
It just sits out here in a bottle year round, and just gotta get that good with the sap. It tastes like maple sap to me.
Whatever. Yeah, no, I'm a coffee 24 hours a day person, so if I drank that, I'd be snoring.
Yeah.
So a lot has happened this week. The war is still marching on. We didn't really plan on specific things to talk about today. We just thought we'd do the regular, have your ear to the Sugar Shack while we shoot the shit.
Yeah. It's, I'm trying to think if there's anything actually I've read that's been really interesting this week. I don't know. I know the war is mainly war news, isn't it? Which is just really a downer. Obviously, gas prices shot right up, but I mean, they're saying that's due to the war. right?
Yeah.
And that's because oil apparently is fungible or whatever, but it's like, it doesn't help anybody.
It just feels like there's, I don't know. That coupled with the inflation prices at the grocery store really making me angry because I think there's a lot of price gouging going on that doesn't really have anything
Well,
to do with
essentially, that's what
anything.
inflation is, right? Though, I mean, I think we talked about this before, and I was listening to economists talk about this somewhere, actually, but essentially, inflation is just the businesses raising prices because they can.
Yep.
I mean, that's really... Oh, yeah, Jon Stewart was talking about that on his podcast. And, that's all it really is. It's not like it's inevitable or something that has to happen or something that's necessary. They just perceive... business owners, mostly large corporate businesses really, perceive the public having more money for whatever reason, and so they're just going to raise the prices as they can to make more profits for the shareholders, who that's the only people they answer to really. So, I was just listening to the radio on the way up here too, and they were talking about if the Fed raises interest to try to get inflation under control, that'll actually be good for people who have like savings accounts and things. So, because it'll be the first interest rate hike in like a million years, and it's like regular people actually will see the positive side of that, I suppose, if they have money in some sort of account that's an interest-bearing account. But mostly they're going to say it's going to hurt the economy, though, I think, and like, people won't want to borrow money and everything, but, I mean, in some ways it'll be good, so it's not all bad.
Right. Yeah, it just feels like a bunch of workers won more wages and then bam, inflation. So I'm still over here arguing for a minimum basic income because I think that would help a lot. Oh, that was another thing that happened this week. School lunches.
Well, I heard, I know, like somebody said Mitch McConnell blocked it or wouldn't have a vote on it or something.
Yep.
I guess I'm unclear about how that turned out. So, but yeah, they're everybody in the country has apparently been eligible for free school lunches.
Yep.
And now that's not going to be the case soon again. Which I guess that many people who believe in the bootstrap theory of life, that's probably, they're really down with that,
Yeah.
But,
but
bad.
it's like all the things that were helping children out of poverty, like they're taking away. It's crazy.
Yep, it did really help with that.
Yeah, school lunches and then like the pandemic aid cards that everybody was getting, I think helped a lot of poor families.
Excuse me here while I put some more wood on the fire. So, actually I want to talk a little bit about that today. There's a much more traditional way of doing this maple sap thing.
There is.
Right? Like, you know much about that?
Yes. So my people are Ojibwe. I'm part Ojibwe, and our people have been tapping the tree since forever. And we have stories about why we have to boil the sap too. There's winter stories that we tell about the time when the Anishinaabe people got real fat because we sat under the trees and just drank the syrup. And that was back when the syrup came right out of the tree as sugar. And then the Creator saw how lazy we were getting, and so he made it real hard to boil down the sugar, the sap to get to the sugar. So it's kind of a funny story. Anyways, so a long time ago, what you would do is take an axe or something and cut like a gash in the tree, and you would make a birch bark basket and set it down underneath that, and you take like a piece of bark and it kind of pound it up into the tree, into the little gash you made, and then that would act as the spout, and the sap would go down into the basket. For those that don't know, you can actually boil water in a birch bark basket without it catching fire. So that would have been one of the ways that we could boil the sap water down.
Actually.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing that it even exists to do this. I love sugar time. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I
think that's freaking, I don't know, I just think that anybody would even figure it out. You can boil something in a birch basket. It's pretty wild.
Yep. And so, like, you could also, So it's funny because like the birch bark don't grow very far from maple trees. I mean, you see them around, and you just gather that ahead of time, and that's winter work. You can make baskets like in that just before the spring hits when the sap runs. You can make the baskets ahead of time. So that's kind of cool. I mean, we used to make soup like that too.
Lord.
My friend Wasan showed us how to do that once. She had a basket and she put like hot stones in it. Boiled the soup that way, right in there. It was really neat. Yeah, so there was a lot of different things you can do that the people from a long time ago learned. I think sometimes they were smarter than us.
Well, this is actually, I mean, fairly, I wouldn't have any clue how to build something like this. I'm glad my dad and my uncle knew how. You know, it's just it's a structure though. But I mean, there's nothing traditional about this, you know, right? But it's just a brick, a bunch of cinder blocks basically, with a pipe coming out the top on the back, and then a big long metal pan that you just dump. You can fit about 20 gallons of sap into it, and then once that gets down to the bottom and boils off, and it can take many hours to boil off sometimes, but then you can actually dump it into a much smaller pan, and then normally we end up finishing it like inside the house to get it to really kind of, you want to strain it really well and like finish it off. So
and then can it.
Yeah, and then you can it, right?
So my uncle has a very much more fancy operation. He has a whole bunch of maple trees at his place, and there's like a tap hose system that he has now. Because when I was a kid, I remember him taking me over there and showing me how to drill the holes and stuff with a hand drill. Which the hand drill was like you push. It was all mechanical. There was no electric anything on it. And then putting the taps in and stuff. But now he has this fancier thing where the taps are hooked to a hose, and the hose runs into the building, and then it goes into this big vat, and they have like a commercial operation there.
I think they call that, I don't even know what they call it, but it's a condenser, I think, right?
Condenser.
It's actually really, really great. I kind of wish, I had one sometimes, but it's not the same thing as this at all. No, this is very, very, very rustic by contemporary standards. So, yeah, this is like the slow way to do it.
I thought it was interesting too. You told me that story about when your parents bought the place and the big kettle.
Well, yeah, the people who owned this land before, they used a giant, huge kettle on a chain that they had.
Like a cauldron.
But yeah, I don't know where that went. So.
Because those are like, that was interesting to me because those are like what we get. They call them treaty pots.
Maybe. Yeah, nothing would surprise me. Yeah, about that. So maybe somebody planted these trees here at some point. You know, maybe.
We did terraform in the old days.
Oh, I know. That's the thing. The Europeans I was just reading a thread about this actually. I mean, the Europeans when they came here, right, they did farming, right, but they didn't recognize that the natives here were farming forests, like whole forests.
Yep.
Whole ecosystems. They couldn't recognize that with their eyes because they thought of a farm as like a small enclosed space with fences, you know what I mean, with livestock and animals. They didn't think of a farm as a whole ecosystem really, that you can control forests and move forests and everything like that, you know, right? And
you gotta befriend the ants.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Don't chop them all down. Befriend the ants. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing to me that people still don't value or understand the fact of indigenous knowledge when it comes to that. Like, it's funny because like the National Forest Service, I was reading here a few months back, they were finally listening to indigenous populations when they were trying to tell them to control burn. They need to control burn to prevent the huge wildfires out west. And I don't know.
But it's impossible to do that when you have housing developments right next to the house. The areas that need to be burned. That's the problem with that, I'd say.
But they're actually considering it at this point because doing that would be better than burning down the developments altogether. You can do it in a controlled way. And you want to burn out the underbrush and stuff like that. So that's interesting that they're finally like realizing, hey, Native people have like scientific knowledge about how this works. So that, and like there's a big movement right now for, amongst like Native people and environmentalists both are talking about eating local, grow your own food. Natives are really trying to do growing heirloom seeds that haven't been messed with by GMO, Monsanto.
Well, I was just thinking this is a big part of the local thing, the maple, why you call it sugar bush, right?
Yeah.
And like I never called it that before, but I guess that's the native way of talking about it. Yeah, right. And that's a big part of the getting local sugar. That's literally the only way, just about. I think. Well, I guess you could grow sugar beets in the summer, right? So I shouldn't say that there's no other way, but this historically was the only way to get sugar at this, particularly these coordinates, and so.
And we used
other than that, they would have to get sugar cane, right? And that didn't exist outside of the southern tropical zones, right? So
for natives, our sweet things were honey and the maple syrup, and we used to store the maple syrup in birch bark cones. We cook it down till it was more of almost like a hard ball consistency, and put it in there.
Yep.
And then that would store all year round. And then also we could make granulated, almost like brown sugar, but out of maple syrup, maple sap.
Yeah.
If you boil it down far enough, you can make it into granulated sugar. So there's that.
And that's your source of sugar right there. And sugar is actually a preservative, right? So,
yeah. And our elders used to drink the sap water, just plain the sap water, because it had the vitamin C and other vitamins in it. And that's important when you're in northern hemisphere, where you have the dark winter for a long period of time. So they used to drink that water to help get the vitamins and nutrients we needed, because it used to be a lot harder to live.
Well, yeah, I mean, you didn't have access to like vitamin C, right? I mean, that totally makes sense. So you'd have to get it. This is a great method of getting that.
Yep.
Any sort of vitamins, because all you would have is meat, really, here, and that's like it. If you didn't learn how to live off, everything that's. But I think if you know the right way of living, right, you can everything's here that you need in the forest.
Right.
Everything, really.
Yep.
You just have to recognize what it is and pick it at the right time, and then know how to store it properly, and you can be good to go. So.
And that's why we Anishinaabe people used to move to different areas for different things. Like around our Great Lakes area.
Right.
Because, one place would be great for fishing walleye, and then there'd be another place that was good for planting, like the Potawatomi planted gardens, and then there'd be another place to, get the wild rice, to gather the wild rice, and then another place to do sugar bush, or gather the medicines we needed to keep alive, or the things that we use to build our homes and our mats and blankets and beds and things like that. So,
I would think that this is one of those things that people from both sides of the political spectrum, getting back to politics a little bit, can agree on. I think most people would like to know to eat local, to support the local economy, to be self-sufficient, to do a lot of that sort of stuff. So that's all part of it, right? You know?
Yeah.
On both sides of the political spectrum, you know. You don't have to be a far right-wing lunatic prepper person to, and on the other side of it, I mean, I guess the other side of it is like what, Portland. I have to know whether this chicken had a good home before I can eat it.
I need to make sure my chicken's free range.
Tucked in for bed every night and read a story.
Yes.
Like that's the other. But I shouldn't make fun of Portland. I love the Pacific Northwest. But so that's what I feel like. This is one of those things that both sides can meet there, but.
Yeah, it seems like, too, out where we live, there's Democrats with guns, like we've mentioned before, that are deer hunters. Deer hunting seems to be another thing that it crosses the aisle, and both sides do.
I think it ends up becoming more of an urban-rural thing. It's less of a partisan thing, but like people who live in urban areas just do not understand the need for guns to hunt deer or hunt at all.
Right.
And they're technically right. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you want to be kind of get your own food. You don't want to be completely dependent on the supermarket, right?
Right.
So like, yeah, you could get your own.
Also,
yeah.
We all talk about these factory farms and how horrible the animals' lives are, and it's much nicer to let the deer live all year long and eat the whatnot, get real fat, and then we kill them.
It seems more convenient in some ways. At least they get to have a life out in the open.
And they're
they
killed
got
quickly.
to have fun. They got to jump around and do whatever they wanted to do. Yeah. They don't have to be like cows, like in a factory farm anyway. They're not like locked in a pen their entire life that can't move. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of benefits to that aspect.
Yeah.
Of it. Yep. So,
I agree.
Humanely, I mean. So.
Yeah, and they're killed nicer because, man, some of the ways they kill animals.
In theory, they kill the cows just like through the head with a spike or whatever it is, but like. Or automatically with the pneumatic. I mean, not.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm just saying, like, that's probably fairly painless, assuming it goes right.
Right.
But that's just the. I don't know that it would necessarily always go right. So, but. Man.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't have to keep going with this if you want to get it wrapped up here soon.
Yeah, well, I only have limited time away from their children.
Yeah.
And I have to go pick up my son from school shortly. But, yeah, we just wanted to have a live episode while we were, my husband, I will say, does...
Well, it's not live. This is...
recording it live.
This is on location episode.
Yeah.
Yes, on location, that's it. So...
And so... when we do sugar, the last few years anyway, my husband is the one that ends up sitting here by himself with the boiling, and then I have the kids. Because we have little ones that like to run around, and trying to keep them away from the fire is fun. Yeah. So we'll visit them for a few minutes, and then we scuttlebutt out of here. So... Yep, the next thing we'll be doing is... mushroom hunting.
Yeah.
That's our next forest activity.
Yeah.
Morel mushrooms, yum, yum, yum.
Late April, early May, right? Yeah,
yep.
Something like that. All right.
At
least I'm trying to think of, we gotta be positive, stay positive.
Yeah.
The war sucks. Yes, the war sucks, and yeah, my heart really goes out to everybody in Ukraine right now, and everything like that. I really hope that people are getting out of the country. Hopefully they elect to be a ceasefire any day. There's talk of it. But, yeah. So, gotta try to stay positive, though, through all that.
Right.
I'm trying to be positive just about our own lives and just about everything, that we have, that we take for granted. We don't have to live in that type of horrible situation, at least. Like, we got a lot of good things here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
And living out here, you have a little bit of, knowledge that you almost... I'm grateful for sugar time and mushroom hunting, and I'm trying to learn more of the plants that you can eat in the forest and planting and stuff like that. It's all important, and grateful for being able to do that, because a lot of places in the world you can't.
Oh.
So keep wearing your babushka scarves on Anishinaabe. Those are the floral babushka scarves that we used to trade with the Ukraine a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
Indigenous people wear.
I did not know that.
Everybody's wearing them in support, so keep that up and keep your prayers going.
That's awesome.
All right. Bama P.
Motherfucker. Bye.